ladies and gentlemen, first of all, a big thank you and congratulations to TEFLAS and to SEA on organizing this world-beating large conference. I can modestly say that out of the 26 Globoils that have taken place till today, including this one, I have spoken at only 25. I missed the first one, but after that, Dr. Mehta ensured that I was participating. Dr. Mehta, Sandeep ensured that I would participate in every one of them, if not in person, then at least by video. Solvent Extractors Association is celebrating 60 years of activity, 60 years of service to the industry, and we celebrated that landmark last night with a very wonderful and moving tribute to the history of the SEA and what is being done. Today we had a presentation on sustainability, and I can inform the distinguished Director General of RSPO and the lady who leads the campaign on RSPO at Wilmar that Globoil for the last 25 years has always had a few slides on RSPO and sustainability. This has been free publicity given to the RSPO and sustainability. And I am proud to say that my own organization, Godrej, sponsored the RT4, the fourth ever roundtable conference of RSPO. It's only when the demands of RSPO became too onerous and we felt a bit suffocated that we felt that we should take a step back. Because after all, in India, where we grow oil palm, there is no question of any deforestation. We plant oil palm on agricultural land. So this is one of the best things that can happen. And the new project that we are bringing, Project Bamboo, is even more eco-friendly. And for that reason, I would say that in today's world, where palm oil is going to make fossil fuels redundant, there is all the more reason to look very benignly at palm oil and not keep nitpicking at it at every nook and cranny. So these are my initial remarks. At the POC conference in March, I was one of perhaps the only speaker who was relatively bullish on prices, because I said that with climate change, with capricious weather, you cannot afford to be bearish on agriculture, because you do not know where and when Mother Nature will strike and create a problem in terms of yields, in terms of agriculture and even human life. So this prediction of a relatively bullish stance has not yet come true. But I would beg to say that forecasts at POC are made from April to March, and there are still good 6 months left for my forecast to come true. What has happened is that we now face what is called a new normal. And the new normal is to expect the abnormal at every nook and cranny. And for that reason, I would say that El Niño, that feared phenomena that we all expected to lead to higher prices this year, is delayed but not dead. It was very interesting listening to Sandeep Bhan and Farhan and members on the panel to talk about how much impact El Niño has made so far. And I tend to agree. The El Niño phenomenon always moves from east to west. And the large geographical area that it can cover is from the far side of Australia to the far side of West Pakistan. In between, it can hit anywhere. And right now, we are seeing deleterious effects in Australia as well as in Kalimantan and other parts of Indonesia. Malaysia has been very lucky. Malaysia has been as lucky as India has been. In India, we saved our kharif crops by a whisker because thank God the rains came in September. If they had not, we would have had an agricultural disaster. Because in Indian agriculture, what matters is rainfall in August. Not June, not July, August. And we had a drought in August. But thank God the rains came in September. I am still not in a position to guess what the Indian crops are going to be like. But they certainly will not be the disaster they would have been had we not had this rain in September. So, as I said, El Nino is going to pick up steam, and we will have to see how it affects crops in the months ahead. Now, why did we see relatively stable prices? Let's ask ourselves a rhetorical question. I think one of the reasons has been the forecast, the incessant forecast of an upcoming recession. Second was the success of the Black Sea export corridor. There is also the question of the failure of the Chinese economy to be stimulated. High interest rates, relatively good palm production up to now, and very importantly, very soft sun oil prices because also of currency weakness, both in Russia as well as in Ukraine. The Russian ruble has fallen from 60 to 100 since the war began. The Ukrainian currency, I really don't know where it stands today. But in Ukraine, no one wants to hold stock. They all want to get it out as quickly as possible. What can push prices higher? That's a question that we all need to bear in mind. First, any sign that the El Nino gathers steam, and the quickest, surest way of that, if there is haze in Singapore. So those of you who live in Singapore, watch out for haze. And if there is haze, go and buy the BMD. Second, if there is a weather problem in South America, there should not be a weather problem in South America in El Nino times. But if there is, and right now it's dry, but there are wet forecasts, but we need to follow that. Thirdly, we must await a bigger biofuel mandate in Brazil. Remember, the Brazilian president is very much an eco-friendly president. He is a green president, and it's almost certain that the new mandate coming into force will be higher than the previous one. Finally, if the Fed pivots and starts cutting interest rates, the dollar will weaken, and that could have a beneficial impact on commodity prices. And finally, the most important factor in the market today, is not El Nino, it is biodiesel, renewable fuels, renewable diesel, and sustainable aircraft fuel. This is what is going to lead the market. Now, having looked at why we are at this level, why we can go higher, let us also quickly see what can push prices down from here. A full-blown US recession, higher interest rates for a longer time, excellent planting weather in South America, and good crop progress in Brazil and Argentina. Almost a conclusive signal, no haze in Singapore. Continued weakness in sun oil, and the lack of any new biofuel mandates or announcements either in the United States, Brazil, or elsewhere. As I told you, the big story for 23-24 originally was El Nino, but because of the delay in El Nino, the big story has been biodiesel, biofuel, renewable diesel, and SAF. Let me give you a statistic to make you think of where we are. According to my friend Oil World, the total production of 8 major vegetable oils in 2023 will be 210 metric tons. Put that figure in your mind. 210 metric tons. Total production of 8 major vegetable oils. What do you think is the production of biodiesel in 2023? It's 56 million tons. So more than 25% of vegetable oil production is going for biodiesel already. And that is before the new mandates come into force in Brazil or United States. That is why you find that it is the soybean oil futures in Chicago, the tail which is wagging the dog. And palm and every other oil is having to follow that. And we better be on guard, on lookout to see that biodiesel consumption has become the new normal in vegetable oil and needs to be monitored and factored very carefully. Let us talk a little bit about palm oil in 2023. It has been a disappointment so far as the bulls are concerned. But palm has now become competitive except against sunflower oil. Delayed El Nino has been a huge disappointment for the bulls, I agree. My estimate is that palm production in Malaysia will be unchanged in 2023 and will be up 1 million tons only in Indonesia. Even that 1 million tons, I am not prepared to put my neck on. It may be a little less than that. The outlook for palm for next year. Indonesia took too long to switch from B30 to B35. They kept telling us we are switching. They never switched until 1st of August or maybe even 15th of August. 15th of August 2023. But 24, they will be on B35 all through the year. So there is going to be a jump in consumption of palm oil for transport fuel. Palm imports in India are very strong, and I suspect that some of the palm imported into India is also going into transport fuels because the palm oil imported into India, the olein, etc., goes in at very, very low taxation compared to fossil fuels which go into transport. Palm has been hurt by the dollar drought in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa, etc. And palm, at least until recently, lost its place in the European biodiesel blends in 2023. 23-24, this new wonderful oil called used cooking oil. And I have spoken from this forum and elsewhere that used cooking oil exports from China are a bit dodgy. The Europeans have more or less caught on to this story and are now investigating. I cannot imagine that the Americans don't know about it, but we all know that what is good for America is good for America and damn the rest of the world. So for that reason, the Americans are turning a blind eye to it, and we could see as much as 1 million tons of used cooking oil being imported into the United States next year. It's possible. And that means palm from Indonesia and Malaysia going to China and then going to the United States as UCO. So let's not forget that. What can boost palm oil prices? Oh, now I've been looking at my... you are not getting the slides because I can't read the slides. They are too far. Yeah. Okay. What can boost palm oil prices? I'll try and read from here. Expansion of the B100 renewable diesel mandate, that could be a factor. Or if a new plant comes into production for sustainable aircraft fuel, that could also be a factor. We have got to be alert. Just the other day, Portugal has announced the setting up of a new plant to produce renewable sustainable aircraft fuel. Second is slower than expected production from Indonesia. Any questionable decision from Indonesia could be bullish for the market. We had one just a couple of days ago when suddenly the export tax, which was supposed to go down by 2 brackets, did not go down. Or it could be some kind of crop failure in South America. Let's look at the other seeds. Rapeseed, we are seeing steady production of rapeseed and canola seed this year. Australian rapeseed is a question mark because of the effects of El Nino. We are not sure yet. And Indian mustard seed, so far it looks like the acreage will shrink slightly, but the production will be slightly smaller. But it's too early to say what it will be, except that we will have a large carryover stock. In soya, as I said, the market is holding up at the moment, but looking beyond the US crop. It is looking at the large crops likely to come forth from Brazil and Argentina. El Nino years generally give good precipitation in South America. There should not be cause for worry. And we have to just wait and see whether the normal pattern follows as it should. The only story of interest in soybean oil is biodiesel and the US and what happens in Brazil eventually. Big soya crops in South America and a big crush, because in the US we are crushing for oil, will mean pressure on meal. I find present meal prices quite unexplainable because it is a fact that at some stage there is going to be too much meal in the world. Brazilian biodiesel mandate, I've already told you, likely to go up. And the current debate in the United States of what incentives are available for sustainable aircraft fuel produced from soybean oil or from vegetable oil is a very interesting one. And the chances are that the Biden administration will concede most of the advantages that biofuels get also to sustainable aircraft fuel. And sustainable aircraft fuel is a very important constituency because the airlines don't have any other means of reducing their greenhouse gases. Sustainable aircraft fuel is one of the few alternatives left to them, and they will have to pay the premium that remains for this fuel. In Sunseed, I marvel at the ingenuity of Ukraine and Russia, particularly Ukraine, to grow such large crops in a war situation and then to manage to export those crops. I repeat what I have said for the last 2 years. This war is going to end badly. How it will end, we cannot say. But there are 2 things certain. Russia was supposed to win this war in 4 days. We are still at that war. There is no way Russia can win this war. And there is no way Ukraine can afford to lose this war. So in my opinion, the outcome, whichever way it is not going to be a nice one. And that is one of the problems that we will face. It could mean a complete blockage of the Black Sea once again, or it could mean a complete free-up of everything. But it is a threat. It is a black swan event, which may happen in 2024, may not happen, and may still be extended. But this is something that I had not expected, and I think neither had most parts of the world. China has been a disappointment as far as vegetable oil is concerned. Will China and when will China return to growth? Stocks in China, like stocks in India, are high. Will China also formulate a biodiesel policy? It is likely, but nothing is certain. China is not seen as a source of any bullish input for the market. We come to India. India's imports are off the charts. And for once, I think, though Indian importers have lost a lot of money in this year, their activity in the last 2 or 3 months has been extremely astute and will pay them dividends. India has gone long at close to the bottom of the market, particularly in palm and in sun. And demand coming back, and we have the festival season coming back, I remain confident that Indian importers, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, will rise again and will be able to recover a lot of what they gave away in the first part of the year. Our Indian farmers are also very resilient, and I admire the fact that they have held on to their crops and not made distressed sales. And it is now up to the government to ensure that MSP is properly paid and the government institutions buy the crop when it comes into the market at the MSP. But with general elections due in 2024, I will not be surprised if the government goes that extra yard to help the farmers and keep them happy, particularly in the states which are going to the polls and which mainly grow rapeseed and soybeans. India's imports naturally next year will be lower than this year. If they went up next year again, it would be absurd. But we are looking, and I always give the statistics for 2012-13 to show you how much market share palm has lost and how much market share soft oils have gained in India. In 12-13, India imported 8 million tons of palm? We are now, this year we will be 9.7, next year it will be 9 million tons. Nothing much. But look at soya. We have gone from 1 million tons to 3.6 million tons, and sun from below 1 million tons to almost 3 million tons. So, big gains in soft oils, something that the palm oil industry needs to bear in mind. Now we come to the demand-supply equation. World energy demand normally goes up by 3 million tons. We are now forecasting that 23-24 world energy demand will go up by 4 to 5 million tons. This is mainly because of biodiesel consumption in various parts of the world. World food demand, I expect, will continue to grow at 3 million tons as it has over the last several years. The net effect is that production or demand rather in 23-24 goes up by almost 7.5 million tons. Now we look at incremental supply and demand. Supply next year goes up in soya oil, mainly because of the improvement, the bigger crush in South America, particularly Argentina. Rape oil production goes up slightly. Palm oil production goes up by 1 million tons. Others go up by about 1 million. Total increase is about 5 million tons. But demand is going up by 7.5 million tons. Now already the previous year, demand outgrew supply. We are now again going to have the same situation. And that is why I think we ought to keep the imponderables in mind. Will the Fed cut rates and when? How bad or deep will be the recession in the United States? When will the Ukraine war terminate and how? And what is going to be the trajectory of the US dollar? Given all these uncertainties, I carefully predict that I expect palm futures on the BMD for the third month to trade between 3,700, which is roughly the current level, to 4,500 between now and June 24. Remember, we are going to have the Ramzan holidays, the Chinese New Year, everything in the first quarter of next year. The trajectory of palm oil prices will depend on the severity or otherwise of the remaining parts of the El Niño. Soya oil will continue to remain tight until April 24. Basis. Who doesn't know basis and how horrible basis has been for the Indian importers? Basis in South America will tend to retain its strength until Argentine crush picks up around April-May. Basis is not going to collapse. It has been recovering. I think it will remain at that level. The election in October in Argentina needs to be watched very carefully because there is a maverick candidate amongst the various, and he is in fact at the moment in the lead. And he is promising a very radical dollarization of the Argentine economy. Most economists can't understand how that can happen, but it can be a black swan event for the market. Soya oil futures will continue to benefit from the brisk US biodiesel demand and trade around current levels until the pressure from South American crush comes in, which means until about April. Sun oil prices, I believe, have bottomed out. There is a lot of pressure to get sun oil out of the Ukraine, but I believe that I completely agree with the discussion that took place, that prices are very close to a bottom, and at these levels, demand will outstrip supply. The one reason, as I said, for higher prices in soybean oil is announcement of new capacity for sustainable aircraft fuel. Now that brings us to lauric oils, which don't have a story, because lauric oil demand depends on industrial growth, and we know that the world is going to be a little short of good dynamic industrial growth over the next 6 months. So I would say that prices will remain, lauric prices, coconut, palm kernel, between 1100 and 1400 CIF Rotterdam. Coconut oil has already regained its premium to palm kernel oil. There's not much to do. If you have a severe El Nino, palm kernel oil prices will also rise. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the two biggest factors of interest are going to be the remainder of El Nino and biofuels. A declining dollar will help higher prices. As I said at POC in KL in March last year, one cannot be bearish on agricultural prices given climate change. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best and urge you not to get too bearish and get lulled into complacency. So far, India is in a sweet spot. India has done well. And with the festive season coming, I definitely wish you all the best. Thank you.